I just believe that visionary leadership means holding both the purpose and the pressure. You know, you can be ambitious and still need support. So you can dream big and still feel doubt. That's not weakness. That's the weight of building something that matters.
Welcome to Lonely at the Top, the podcast where high-level leaders speak the truths they rarely get to say out loud. I'm your host, Rachel Alexandria, former psychotherapist turned soul medic to founders, executives, and decision makers, helping them clean up their secret messes and navigating the emotional weight of leadership. If you've ever felt the strain of being responsible for everything and no one you can really talk to about it, this is the right place for you. In each episode, we go behind the curtain with a courageous leader to explore the real cost of holding power and what it takes to stay human at the top. Today's guest is Angela Quach, the founder and CEO of Destiny Lab, a multi-million-dollar marketing agency specializing in brands with purpose. A distinguished Korean-American entrepreneur and DEI activist, she's been recognized as a Forbes business coach and has led brand strategy for names like Tony Robbins, DirecTV, AT&T, and the Earl B. Gilliam Barr Foundation. Born in Ohio to working-class immigrant parents, Angela's rise reflects both grit and vision. Today, she's on a mission to build a more equitable business world, one bold idea at a time. Hello, my lovely Angela.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. So I wanted you to be one of my first interviews on the podcast because we are, surprise to viewers and listeners, we are friends in real life.
In real
And
life. Yeah.
I knew Angela like before when she was still an impressive, I want to say corporate climber, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes,
before she
definitely so.
became the amazing CEO she is today, and I wanted to talk to her about it. So tell us just a little bit about your background. I hit it in your introduction, but what was it like for you growing up with working class immigrant parents in Ohio? Now you're in, you've been to San Francisco and San Diego and Dubai, you've been all over the place. But take us just for a moment back to the beginning.
Wow. Well, it's been an amazing journey of gratitude. I would say that my journey is not very different from a lot of others, especially kids who were raised by immigrant parents. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, to humble working class roots. My parents made less than $20,000 a year in salary. So, I mean, we were poor with a capital P, but you don't know that growing up, right? It's just like
Mm-hmm.
it's a lifestyle for you. So, really, the way out for me was through education. I am a proud byproduct of affirmative action. Someone at the top created a lane of access for me to succeed
Mm-hmm.
based on merit and not resources. So from there, I received an academic scholarship at the Ohio State University. And that put me on a journey as a business consultant. And it opened me up to avenues for traveling, for projects that I probably would have never been exposed to, opportunities of a lifetime. You know, if there was an opportunity, I definitely seized it. And that was my mindset. And I came into the corporate world really wanting to prove myself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, especially in my 20s, I was so hungry for respect, for money, for access, for all these things, for power, influence, leadership roles. So to say I worked my butt off is an understatement. And I just had a lot to prove. What I believed at that time, I had a lot to prove. And I did pretty well for myself. I started off as a manager, worked my way up to agency director for a marketing agency, Max Borges agency, where I handled large accounts and things like that. And I really had a change of heart from corporate to entrepreneur when I started working for a well-known name by the name of Tony Robbins. He's a well-known life coach in the life coaching industry. And it
Mhm.
was something I had manifested. Like I had a vision of working for the best life coaches out there. And I had either Tony Robbins or Oprah. And I
Mm.
really hit the nail. Just submitting my resume, being very aggressive with follow-up and putting myself out there. And what I realized working for Tony as his producer for 2 years, which is a man I respect very well, is that this is a man who has a vision and understands how to execute it, and he is not shy about his
Mm.
vision and his dream, and being an entrepreneur is not for everyone, but I
Mhm.
do believe that we can all be leaders of our own journey, of our own desires and dreams. So, I have plenty of friends who are still in corporate, who are now VPs and presidents, and to them, that is their dream. So for
Mhm.
me, I had to be authentic and honest with myself and say, my dream is to start my own business from the ground up. And that's what I
Which
did.
you then did. Yeah, I met you when you were still working for Tony,
Mhm,
and you had just moved to San Diego, and you were like, "You know what? I really wanna do my own thing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a big leap," and you were like, "I'm gonna make this company, not." I mean, I've been working for myself for almost 20 years, but
mhm,
this is just basically me and some contractors. And you were like, "No, I'm gonna build a company." And I was like, privately, I was a little bit, I didn't understand how much drive and intelligence you were really gonna bring to this. I had
mm,
no idea. I had never watched someone personally go from being employed and never having been an entrepreneur to within 6 months having a company with employees and actually killing it. I have never seen that in my life, and I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years.
Thank you, thank you.
It was remarkable. Like, I wasn't doubting that you could eventually get there, but I was like, "What's she gonna do for money in the meantime?" And you were like, "Nah, man, I'm making this work right now."
Yes. Yeah, I attribute a lot of that to the universe having faith, first and foremost, which we can definitely dive into, and also extreme resilience. Extreme resilience, because even in those 6 months, each day of those 6 months, you're not sure what the outcome is going to be, and I was living day to day. I was not
Mm,
as financially literate as I am today, and so I
mhm,
was living off a very minimal amount of savings, and I had to make sacrifices. I decided that if I was gonna start my own business, every dollar counted.
mhm,
I downgraded to an apartment with 2 other roommates. I used every dollar I could to reinvest back into my business. So I believe that if you do want something to work, I truly believe that anything is possible, but we
mm.
have to walk in faith that it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
I so what I want to remark on, pertinent to the topic of this show, is that I knew you while you were doing this. And in fact, sometimes we worked together. And I did not know because we rarely talked about business. We were always talking about personal stuff, right? I didn't even know what you were going through or what you were having to handle as you were establishing yourself as a leader in your company. Did you experience that as difficult or lonely at the time?
Absolutely, and I think it only amplified that feeling starting my business during the pandemic. So
Mm,
it was loneliness on this journey of entrepreneurship and loneliness just with the social conditions that we were living in during those times. But I'll
mm,
I'll just focus on being an entrepreneur. You know, when you have a vision for your life and you are genuinely authentic and vulnerable to the desires of your vision, it's a
mm,
very, very vulnerable feeling.
mhm,
And not everyone is going to understand. Just like you said, you are my dearest, dearest friend, Rachel. Like everything about you just emanates support. and love and light and abundance, but not even you could grasp like what my dream
No.
truly was. And that is not your work to do. That is
Mm.
not your job. That is truly my job. So when people say it starts with mindset, I completely and fully subscribe because the world is going to constantly test you to say, how bad do you want it? How bad do you really, really want this? And I believe everything that I've worked through in my life, the conditions that I was raised in, sometimes I did question why life wasn't a little more entitling for me. But I
Mhm.
completely understand now because if you want to do your own thing, you have a vision for your life, for your business, for your company, it's going to require that you overcome hardships.
Yeah.
It's just an inevitable part of any journey, especially a hero's journey, an entrepreneur's journey. So
Mhm.
we all have to develop this muscle to overcome.
I know what you're talking about. When I first started my business, I mean, being a therapist wasn't hard for people to understand. They were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's an understood path." But when I changed how I was working and I was like, "No, I'm not just a therapist. Here's what I'm doing with people. Here's how that's functioning." It took a long time for people to see what I was creating. Yeah, so I get that. There is a loneliness in being a visionary because no one else will see it until it's already made.
Mhm.
And during the whole making process, you're the one alone who has to hold that.
Yes. And I'm also a DEI activist, I'm an entrepreneur, and I just believe that visionary leadership means holding both the purpose and the pressure, you know? You can be
Mhm.
ambitious and still need support. So you can dream big and still feel doubt. That's not weakness. That's the weight of building something that matters.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so true. Well, let's talk about holding that weight and what that has been like for you. So, can you share with us a leadership decision or a leadership season that really tested you, like a specific example?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Right.
um, I'll start from the beginning. So I think what I find really common with a lot of my entrepreneur friends and something that I had to overcome myself is building a team or building a dream team, getting people on board with what you're
Mhm.
building. This can be in the sense of suppliers, contractors, teammates, board members, friends, loved ones, whoever. This is what I tell myself. It only feels real when it's in the real world.
Mm.
So we cultivate it within ourselves. We have a dream, we have a vision. We can work on it late at night on our Google Docs or on our Canva, and we build a website for it. But it becomes real when we start integrating it into the real world. And that takes people,
Mhm.
and that takes people coming on board. And delegation was very, very hard for me because I was Miss Do It All. I could do it all. There is nothing I cannot do. I can send the email while I make a cold call, while I update the website, while I send invoices. And that is great to get you where you need to go to a certain point. But there comes a point where you have to say, my business is so worthy of more resources. Whether that's charging more, whether that's bringing on more teammates, whether
Mhm.
that's getting investment, my business is so worthy of investment, of putting a team together. So we have to get I had to get out of that kind of like the
Do it
fear
all myself.
mindset. Do it all
Yeah.
myself, save a penny, and I can do it all because what I was eventually becoming was the own chokehold to my
Mm.
business. I
Mhm.
was delaying things. I knew things could be more efficient. I knew things could be better done
But you just couldn't
design-wise.
take it out of your
Uh,
tight little hands because you're like, "No, I'm the only one who can do stuff," because that used to be the case.
Exactly. So who I was then to get where I needed to go is not who I needed to be now to grow the business. It's a
Mm,
huge identity shift. And so
mhm,
at some point, I needed to stop being the leader that did it all and start being the leader that my business really needed and to
mm,
start trusting people. So I think being a good CEO or leader is not about control, it's about trust. So I had to
yeah,
find the right teammates to bring onto my team. So it became my mindset no longer became getting it all done, it became putting the right people in the right places, and that takes a lot of courage, just internal courage to get into that mindset, and it was very vulnerable for me to open up to people and say, "Hey, I'm starting a marketing agency. We're a startup. This is our vision. This is how we're going to grow, and do you wanna be a part of this?"
mm. Yeah, it is incredibly vulnerable, right?
Mhm,
To start something and ask people to believe in it and then trust them to help your baby function,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
What
finding
did
the right
you
contractors who understand what you're trying to execute. This is a whole game as well.
how did you learn to navigate that trust?
Something I'm still learning, but I would say I think to vouch for people quickly
Mhm.
would require having a vetting process that I believed in. So my vetting
Mm.
process, metaphorically speaking, in terms of business, I would just kinda jump into bed with people and
Mm.
offer them these huge projects with really no idea what they were capable of or how they were going to
Mm.
execute, even if they came highly recommended or they had a great website or great marketing. I still didn't know how our dynamic would be. So
Right.
what I've learned is to slow down is what I still tell myself, but to slow down and start with small projects
Mhm.
because there's a saying which is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So I would get to
Mm.
know my contractors, whether I met them at conferences or I met them at business workshops, referrals through friends and peers. We would start with one project, very, very small. And you can learn a lot about a person just through small interactions. And I started to learn to not overextend myself, not overextend my budget, not overextend my my coaching. I used to coach suppliers, like I used to really be very, very forgiving. And so
Mm.
there's a level of accountability I had to start holding people to, which is, do
Mm.
you understand where I want to go? Are you going to treat me like the client? You know?
Yeah, and it's hard, I think, especially for women, to move from this place of trying to befriend everybody so that they like us, so that we all get along, to being somebody who says, "Hey, this is how it has to go, or else we're not going to work together."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're not really taught that, right? As women, we're socially conditioned to be good girls, to be very
Mhm.
accommodating and very appeasing. So there's a different type of energy I had to tap into, which is a bit masculine. The business world is not saying that this is how it should be, but the business world is very masculine.
Mhm.
So there is a level of structured, kind of straightforward communication that needs to be put on the table. Variables need to be very, very clear. And
Mhm.
I had to start telling myself, I can't be the leader that everyone likes. I have to be the leader that my business really needs right now.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not just you, right? You have employees.
Mhm.
You have a business that doesn't just support you, but it is other people's livelihood and it matters. And if you don't stand up for that, then everything crumbles.
Yeah. I am the gatekeeper of my company. My company is truly a mirror of my leadership. So there's no
Mm,
one else to blame but myself. And that is a very hard rite of passage, I think, for leaders, is to say that if something is not working well, the first place I need to look is within myself. What decision
yes.
am I making or not making? What is something that I am saying or not saying?
And that's the place where I think it gets lonely. I mean, it's an important place for growth, and it's amazing to step fully into our most adult selves. And how many people really understand? How many people can you go talk to that know what that's like, or that can even call that out for you and say, "Hey,
Mm,
are you looking in the mirror?" You know what I mean?
yeah, because you know who's not gonna tell you that? Your employees or the people that
Right.
you hire. And I also think a lot of times when there is a transition from maybe staff to leader or from employee to entrepreneur, we think that the same friend group or the same peers are going to understand what we're going through. And
Mm.
unfortunately, that is not the case.
Mm-mm.
There's a new power dynamic that's put in place. And the righteous leaders understand that there is a moral obligation to understand that there needs to be that power dynamic. And how can we respect that dynamic?
Yeah.
So it's not
What
about
was
control, it's about influence.
Yes, it is. So you briefly mentioned being a woman of color and being a
Mm,
DEI advocate. Was there any extra step there, moving from somebody who our culture doesn't regard as being the authority, right?
mm,
Like we do it as women.
mm.
I'm imagining there's an additional step, an additional piece to being somebody who is of the global majority, but not the power majority in this
Oh,
country.
that's amazing. Thank you for bringing that up. I believe that there are a lot of unspoken dynamics that happen in any industry. And unfortunately, it is around gender and race and some type of ism that even in 2025, we are still navigating. There have been so many times that I have walked into a room and I was assumed to be the manager,
Not the CEO.
and not the CEO.
Mm,
And when you are already predisposed or that judgment is already predisposed on you, it affects you. It affected
mm,
me. It affected me very deeply. And especially as someone who has come from nothing and I was still navigating my identity as a
mm,
CEO, as a leader in my community. Yeah, as a leader of the underrepresented. I understood these are the unspoken battles that we have to go through every day. And what is not brought to the light can cultivate in the darkness. And
mm,
how do we navigate that? I'm still navigating those things, but I would say affirming and owning and knowing that I am exactly where I need to be and that I deserve a seat at this table. And my opinion does matter. And I did not get here by luck. I worked for everything that I had. And I have to remind myself I am self made. I deserve to be here. My opinion does matter. So being surrounded by a network of people who can support you. This is really, really important. This is what changed me is like I have a network, a sisterhood of women, which is part of your group, Soul
mm.
School, that has helped me understand that I'm not alone in this.
And you also, I mean, I've seen you invest when you first started. You weren't specifically focused on helping companies with founders of color.
Mhm.
You were just like, hey, I've got a couple really good whale clients, and we're just going to
Yes.
make this happen. I mean, your company is highly diverse, which is amazing.
Thank
And I
you.
know you've shifted to starting to talk more about
Mhm.
helping companies with a purpose and more own your identity.
Mm,
What can you tell us about that? What would you give as advice for somebody who might be navigating the same
mm,
pivot?
yeah. There's a saying that money can't buy happiness, but everyone wants to find out themselves, right? So I was very profit driven. So my company was purely focused on the service of marketing, and we marketed very large enterprise clients, so very profit driven. And I think once I hit a million, which was like my life goal, that was like
Mm,
that was my dream. I
mm,
said, "Universe, God, if I hit $1 million, I will never complain. I'll be so grateful."
mhm,
That's all I want. I just want $1 million. And when I hit that goal, I started to really question what my goals were.
mm,
And that was a very fulfilling moment. It was a huge milestone for my company. We threw a party. We had
mhm,
recognition, awards, and achievements all around that. And I realized there's something missing from this goal, and
mm,
it doesn't have a lot of heart. And so it put me on a journey, on a personal journey, on finding who I really was when I was not starving and obsessed about money. Like
mm,
who am I beyond that money? And what I started to realize was I deeply care about my community. I am so proud of my representation and who I am. And I love being a leader and I wanted to give back. So, what's so interesting is becoming a purpose driven company has brought me more revenue than being profit driven. And I would attest that to when your heart and soul and creatives know this, but I want everyone to know this. When you put your heart and soul into something, there is a fulfillment beyond resources. It's an emotional fulfillment. And we need that passion when times get hard because
mm,
passion is what drives us through the hard times.
That is very
S-
true and very wise.
So I started
I
incorporating a lot more of my passion into my company. And
I
I
think
started
that's a
to cultivate more like-minded leaders, and my network, it just feels so much more fulfilling these days.
and probably less lonely.
Definitely. Yeah. Because it requires a level of vulnerability to say, "This is what I'm passionate about. Do you
Mm,
feel the same?" I care about
mhm.
DEI. I care about uplifting the community. Do you care?
Yeah. I think that's a really good moment for us to talk about the private ledger, which is a segment we are always going to be doing on the show,
Mm,
because at the top, no one sees your balance sheet of burdens. So
mm.
here we open the private ledger to share with the audience and help people feel more understood and less alone. So, can you share with us first what was, at least in the beginning, or maybe even still, one cost of being in leadership that you paid?
Okay, one cost of being in leadership that I had to pay would be to completely sacrifice my the first thing that came up for me is to completely sacrifice my ego.
Mm,
I believe personally that we get to certain levels of our business or in leadership, and it's always our ego that's being tested.
mm,
So from the beginning for me, it was feeling so scared to reveal my vision, thinking people were going to steal my idea, steal my company, steal my clients. It was so closely guarded to my heart that my ego was tested. And I had to say, this is bigger than me. And if I want it to be real, I have to put it out there.
mm.
Um, and get out of that very small fear based mindset that people are going to just take everything from me once I put it out there.
That is very wise, and I haven't heard that before in this context, but
Mm.
that way of being kind of stingy is
Mhm.
so isolating. the opposite of generosity. Generosity is welcoming, it's inviting, and it's connective. And when we don't feel like we can be generous because we're scared of being injured or violated or stolen from, a
Yes.
lot of us have had those experiences in the past.
Yes.
But
Definitely.
that defensiveness is actually part of what keeps people isolated. So it sounds like that was a cost you paid in the beginning, and then you had to learn to let go of that protectiveness.
Yes. And I think it strikes a beautiful balance to say my vision needs to be protected. And also, I need to have the courage to say my vision is worthy of being out there.
Mhm.
And those are two very validating parts of ourselves, right? Both of these parts of within myself needed to be understood and needed to
Mhm.
be expressed. So every level of my business has always tested my ego. So in the beginning, it was just getting out there. It was just getting out there, getting started. When things don't go my way, which happens a lot, when I don't get the client that I want, when I am being lowballed, when someone just quit, there's
Mhm.
just so many things. There are times I really start to doubt myself. Genuinely. I mean, the imposter syndrome just completely takes over. And I say to myself, is this worth it? Am I really qualified? Who do I think I am? So these voices that come and attack me in my most vulnerable moments, they're there. They're still there. I would just say I get a lot stronger at handling those emotions.
Yeah, I love that. I read somewhere, and I've been citing it recently. Now I can't remember the exact quote, but that our feeling of trust in ourself, or it's something about the idea that it's not about what happens, not assuming that we're always going to be safe in terms of events that occur, but that we can trust in our ability to respond,
Mm.
and that
Ooh,
you've
yeah.
developed the ability to respond. It's like you can't know for sure that the hire is going to work out. You
No.
can't know for sure that the contract's going to resign, but you can trust because you've developed these skills that you'll be able to steer the ship.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better.
Thank you.
Yeah. Resilience is always saying, I will be okay. This will be okay.
And that kind of takes us to the next part of the private ledger, which is one invisible asset that you didn't realize you had in the beginning.
Mm.
We already talked about resilience.
We did talk about resilience. So, well, yes, we said that enough. So maybe a new nugget, a new asset that I did not know that I had. I mean, I think I had it, but it proved rewarding is extreme optimism.
Yeah, I
We
could
have
see
to
that.
we have to be kind to ourselves, you know? We have to be our biggest cheerleader. And the thing I tell a lot of my entrepreneur friends who are starting out, and I believe within myself, is no one is going to vouch for you unless you vouch for yourself first.
Mm.
I have to be
Hmm.
my biggest cheerleader. I set the cadence.
Yeah, you really do. I've known you now for 5 or 6 years, and you believed in something before anybody could see it, and it never felt pushy. It just always felt like, of course, I can, here's this thing, we're gonna do this. And, it's
Obviously.
inspirational, but you inspire yourself.
Mm,
And that's
thank
an
you.
amazing asset. Lots of people are seeking inspiration, right? There's so many inspirational
Mm,
speakers and coaches that get big crowds, but how many of the people who attend actually go out and do something amazing? Because it's not internal, right? That's an
mhm,
external inspiration, but you
mhm.
have this asset of internal inspiration.
Thank you. Yes, and I would say it has fueled me during my darkest hours. It is so beautiful for people to have mentors or have life coaches they subscribe to have a therapist. You are my spiritual teacher and life coach, Rachel. So when I am in my shadows, you know how to get me out. And for that, I'll forever be so loyal and so grateful to you. Yes. Yes. I love you.
Love you
But I
too.
would say the biggest voice cannot be Rachel. I wish I could put Rachel in
Mm.
my pocket. I think she's working on something where we can. More to come, coming soon. But I will say that
This is what happens when you have a marketer as your first guest.
coming
Oh my gosh.
soon. Rachel in your pocket. But I would say I know that I need to be my biggest cheerleader because
Mhm.
I am the one who makes the call. My mind, body, and spirit make the call.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just knew that at a very early age to just always be rooting for myself. I think
And
it's the
seeing
life
those
of the
steps.
underdog. Mhm,
Yeah, yeah. But lots of
mhm,
people are underdogs that don't make the leaps that you've made.
mm.
You were the underdog and you saw big steps, big leaps, and you said, "Well, why not me?"
Why not me? Why not me?
Mhm.
It's a
Let's talk
muscle.
then. It
It's a
is,
muscle.
and you are buff as heck.
Thanks, girl.
Side note, we have weightlifted together.
Yes,
And
yes.
Angela is the person you want with you screaming,
Yeah.
lightweight.
Easy work. Let's go.
So let's talk about then in the private ledger, the last thing. What is one investment that you're making now for your well being, for your soul?
Oh, this is an easy
That's
one.
the end of the
That's why I'm
question.
sorry. Yeah, okay. An investment I am making in myself this season
Mm,
is to know that I am the power and my life comes first. So in my 20s, I sacrificed my 20s to my job. A lot of people do, right?
mm,
But work was first. Work was before family. Work was before fun.
mm-hmm.
Well, this is not everyone, but I think for
For
people
high
out there,
performers, it often is.
for the
Yeah.
high performers, work comes first. Everything else, second, third, maybe not even on the list. So now that I am in my late 30s and doing the work that I'm doing with Rachel, I will say I found that there is a space. There is a space for balance. There is a space for balance. And when the CEO is happy, everyone is happy. And finding
So
my
what's
own
making you
joy.
happy? Yeah, tell us. I'm waiting with bated breath.
Right?
What is it?
Well, the investment I'm making in myself is to invest in places outside of business. So when I was so solely focused on business, it was good for my business. But what I lacked from it was a community that I could really count on for friendship, for moral support. I had a very transactional Rolodex.
Mm,
Nothing wrong with that. We need that. We need that to make businesses go. But I would say in this season, I have more of a relational Rolodex, and it changes the complete flavor of the business. It's what fuels the passion part of being a purpose-driven marketing agency. It changes my work as a DEI advocate. It's being invited to the organizations that I care about and seeing how we can do business together and cultivating friendships that do eventually lead to business, but it starts with friendship first. And that's going to dance festivals, that's having amazing conversation at dinner, that's genuinely asking how someone's family is and truly caring. So it's as simple as that, but it's been a game changer for me to be relationship first.
and it does take a lot of investment time. I've been relationship first the entire
Mhm.
time
We've
in my
talked about
business.
this. Yes, yes.
And I don't regret anything, but it's not as financially lucrative, or it wasn't for me because I was
Mm,
really invested in my friends. It takes a lot of time. And
mhm.
that is a choice I've made that I'm happy with. But
Yes,
let's not say that that's not an investment. It is. It
it
absolutely
is.
is to be relationship Rolodex instead
Mhm.
of transactional Rolodex.
Yeah. And people just you like people more, people like you more, right? And that's what it's all
Yeah.
about.
And it's also less lonely.
Yes, to bring it home. It I am it is definitely less lonely. I've been searching and rediscovering connection.
Mm, I love that. And it sounds like the connection you've been discovering was really coming more home fully to yourself. Like, this, my identity is part of who I am. You know, my
Mhm.
identity as the child of immigrant parents,
Mm.
as a DEI focused business owner. And that's something that is bringing you more connection.
Yes, because I had to have the courage to put my real values out there. This is what I care about. And when you are able to put your authentic self at the table or present yourself as authentically as you can, you call upon your tribe.
Yes.
It takes vulnerability to call upon your true tribe.
Yeah. Because then what if they don't come to me? What if they don't see me? What if they reject me? Those are the fears that we have.
That's the small minded fear voice that gets stuck in us and
Mm-hmm.
tells us that we have to be a cookie cutter certain type of way. We have to behave a certain type of way. If we want love, we want connection, we want friendship. But the truth is, can we show up as authentically and as genuine as we can be? And the people that love us or who want to be near us, they'll find us. It's your calling card. It
Mm-hmm.
was my calling card to say, I really care. I really care about DEI. I really care about my community. I want to uplift the underrepresented. I want my marketing agency to be more than about money. I want it to be purpose driven.
Love it. I love it. Let me ask you the perspective shifting question here.
Yes.
What do you wish? Because you're encountering a lot of leaders. You know, you have
Mhm.
the whole time in your company and now even more so with this relationship Rolodex. What do you wish more leaders felt permission to say out loud?
I wish more leaders felt permission to say, I have a vision and it is so big that it scares me. And sometimes I feel alone in it. I think it
Mm,
takes a huge amount of vulnerability to admit that. And I think more leaders could come together and say, how can I serve? And how can I
mm,
help? Instead of all
I
this
love that.
posturing, all
Like,
this
I've got it all together.
yes, yes,
What?
exactly. No, we know you don't. We know you don't.
We know you don't, but when you act like you don't need help, we don't realize you need help, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the ask for help.
Hmm. Even if it's ask for help to create something, to execute your vision, to step out and be loud and create.
Mm,
We also need help with that.
yes, because there are so many amazing people in this world who have great integrity, who have good hearts, who have a vision that can amplify that integrity. But sometimes it never gets executed. And guess
Hmm.
whose visions get executed? The loudest. The
The people
loudest
who
in the
say,
room.
I need help. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really do. You know, I remember in the beginning, you saw that in me. You were like, I see that you're doing great work, but you are not asking for nor getting any help in telling people about it.
Mhm.
So, how
Mhm.
can my agency actually help you with this?
Mm.
And I was like, oh no, is it you
Mhm.
know, unless you have a spare $20,000, it doesn't feel like you can just say, hey, I don't know how to pay for this, but I
Mhm.
need help getting my vision out there in the world. And
Mhm.
you were the first person, I think, to see that in me and say, there's other ways.
Yeah, and that says nothing bad about you. You are feeling what so many people are feeling. And I even told you, I was like, it's just because you have such a high level of integrity. You don't wanna manipulate anyone. You don't
Mhm.
want to lead anyone astray. Like, you wanna have the most authentic, honest conversation about needing support, whether it's financial services, whatever
Mhm.
resources.
But I think it's
And
also
I
fear. I think there was an
mm,
isolating aspect that was coming from fear,
mhm,
right? What
mhm,
if I in some way impose on somebody and they feel uncomfortable, or
mm,
what if I ask and people say no and then they think less of me because I didn't
mhm.
have it all together myself, because that was my family's message too. Was if you want it done, you better do it yourself.
Mm. Wow. Yeah.
So here we are, two people who've built companies
Yes.
who came from families who said, "Hey, you got to do it. No one else is going to help you do it." Who said, "You know what? We find each other. We find community."
Yes. Yes. And I mean, I don't know anyone more vulnerable and more capable than you, Rach. So,
That's very sweet.
mm.
Thank you. I think you're up there. I think you you are up there sharing your story and inspiring people with your vulnerability.
Thank
All
you.
right, I'm going to bring us home. I'm going to bring us home with this question. This is the how we're going to end every interview. It's the time machine. I'm going to open the door to the time machine.
And I'm walking
So
through
here
it.
you are. Yeah, you're walking in. Okay, so you're going to go back in time. What will you say to yourself earlier in your career?
I would tell myself earlier in my career that my power, my growth in my career, everything I ever wanted, influence basically, is within myself. I don't need some type of external validation to tell me who I am. I
Mm,
am who I am. And I wish I would have known that sooner and just get started on my business sooner, um, made the deals that I made sooner. If I just had completely just owned that I do not need someone's permission to be great,
mm,
I think younger Angie would have had an easier time with her self-worth and who she was
mm.
and where she was going and what path she thought she needed to take in corporate. If she would have just known she was worthy from the beginning. Yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
That's the sound my heart's making.
Aw.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey and your wisdom with us. I know this is going to connect with quite a number of people. And maybe we'll have another conversation someday when you're at your 10 million mark.
Yes, for sure, coming soon. Yes, yes.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Lonely at the Top. If today's conversation resonated, I hope you'll give yourself permission to pause, even for a moment, and check in with what you might be carrying silently that you don't need to, because you don't have to hold it all alone. If you're ready for support that goes deeper than just talk and strategy, you can learn more about working with me at rachelalexandria.com. If you know another leader who needs to hear this podcast, please send it their way. Because, yeah, it's lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to stay that way.